Hey, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. We're excited today. We're going to do something a little different, Chris and I, because we're big in the paving industry and pavement maintenance industry. Chris and I are going to start, finding what we see as good quality people that are in the paving business and start interviewing them. And for a bunch of reasons, because we really want to advance our industry on a constant basis. As the chairman of the Rabine group of companies, we're also going to be growing our businesses nationally more and more as time goes on. We've grown immensely in the last 10 years, 15 years nationally. And, we want to meet more people. We want to find more partners that we'll do business with in the future. Some partners that we might even acquire a percentage of and help them get to a size they might never even envision without our differentiator. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So our first guest, welcome, Nick Small. Nick Small, are you in Fort Lauderdale today? Where are you?
I'm in rainy Fort Lauderdale today. Very, very rainy the last couple of days. But
I know.
I'm down here
I'm on the other side in Naples. It's raining here too. So Nick, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. Nick, tell us a little bit about your company first, US Pave.
Well, we started back in 2012. I worked for my family's company. I got introduced into the pavement business with my family's company. They owned a pretty large commercial paving maintenance company. The exact same thing that we're doing now. And
what was the name of that company?
Driveway Maintenance.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. Well, that company.
Yep.
All right, and that's your father, uncle, what?
No. So it's my aunt. She's the president now, and her adopted father had the company, and we call it an adopted father, but it's like a father relationship with her and whatnot. And she asked me to come interview there. This is like 2009, and I had a little manufacturing company. So when I was about 24 years old, I started this little sheet metal company. We were manufacturing vending equipment, hot dog carts with the umbrellas and whatnot, and we were shipping them all over the world. And that was my little niche, my little entrepreneurial niche in the beginning. And so one day I got a phone call after about 4 years of doing that. I got a phone call from my aunt saying, "Hey, come meet with us tomorrow morning." And so I went down there and I got offered a job to come sell asphalt. And I didn't need a job. My company was doing pretty well, but at that point I was like, how many hot dog carts could I possibly sell in a year? That was that was my thinking. I was 27 years old, 26 years old or something. And so I remember getting offered that job, not knowing that I was going to get offered that job. I got offered that job that morning, and I sat there and I thought for about 3 seconds, and I took the job. And I sat there and I was like, even if I fail at this, I'll learn something about business. It was a successful business at the time, and I knew that being around that, I would learn something. So I hit the ground running.
What was your aunt's role there, Nick?
At that time, she was one of the operations people. She's president now.
What's her name?
Sylvia Brown.
I think I may have met Sylvia at one point.
Yeah, you've met them all.
Yeah. Okay, Sylvia. So Sylvia was operations manager. Now she's the president.
Yep, she's the president now.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay, so Sylvia and the prior owner, or the prior president, they kind of made you an offer and you took it.
Yeah, I took it. It was very low, but and it wasn't for the money that I took it, but I just, I didn't know anything about business. I was 23, 24 years old, starting out on my own. I just came back from the Army, and I didn't want a real job, but I knew I wanted to go work for myself. So, that was.
Go back there briefly. The Army. Thank you for serving, brother. Appreciate your service.
Oh, thank you, man. Yep. But I came back and I was like, I started doing the hot dog cart thing, and that took off. I mean, we were selling 4 or 5 hot dog carts a day sometimes, and but again, it was like, how much can I possibly do? And I got offered that job, and I took that job. The hot dog carts were pretty much on autopilot at that time. I took that job, and when I took it, I married it. I I went all in, I just, every piece of I was the youngest estimator by 14 years. The next guy was 14 years older than I was. And whenever I walked into a room, I just needed to know as much as everybody else knew. So the iPads were just coming out. I bought the first iPad, and I would sit there at night and I would just look at YouTube video and read, and the composition of asphalt, the composition of concrete, what actually makes concrete hard. I mean, all these little nuances of information so that I can sound like an expert when I went. And I was pretty mechanical, so that helped also. But I worked there for 2 years. Yeah, just a little bit over 2 years. And the company was running at the speed of the fax machine. My customers were my age. We were, iPhone guys at the time and stuff like that. They wanted proposals instantly. They wanted to make a decision right away. And our system at that company at the time, we would go estimate. I'd have to go back to the office on their computer, sit inside that office, put the estimate together, send it to the main office, and then hopefully in a few days, the proposal would get generated, and then it would get faxed by fax machine. And and this is not terribly long ago. This is fax machines were just going away at that time. And I was very aggravated because I would lose deals sometimes for not getting the proposals quick enough. And again, you attract who you are. So my customers were my age, and they just worked a lot faster. This was late 20s people being in charge of assets and stuff like that, and they just worked at a much faster pace. And so one day, I was working 90 hours a week at that job. My little boy was sleeping on my couch, in my office. I was a single dad at the time. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So I called my aunt. It was a Monday morning. I was done. I called her up. I said, listen, I need you to fire me. I'm not quitting, but I'm not coming back to work. I need you to fire me. So the next day, Tuesday morning, I didn't go to work. I called her again and said, hey, I need you to fire me. I needed to collect some unemployment. I had no savings. I was a single dad, and I knew that Wednesday I got my last pay. I would get my last paycheck if I quit, So Wednesday morning I called and they said, you know what? We'll come see you. Where are you at? I guess at that point, after 3 days, she took me serious. And I went, I met them at the office and they let me go. I gave them my keys and my credit card. And then I put my son on my shoulders, got to the bus, walked down to the bus stop, took the bus home. And then that night I bought uspave.com for $9.99. And I had this vision. I was just going to build a paving company. At that point, I was 2 years old in the industry, way too young to start a paving company. I mean, way too inexperienced to start a paving company. That's the better way to put it. But I was, I had some customers, and I was like, I'm going to go do this, And the first thing I did was I learned about websites and some SEO, and I built my own website, and then I started marketing it, and then I started making some phone calls, and 15 days later, I sold a $12,000 patch job. And I remember I told the customer, I told him, Larry, I said, Larry, this is my first job. I'm starting this on my own. He's like, did you start a company? I was like, yeah. Did you get incorporated? Yeah. He's like, you have insurance? I'm like, no, I don't have insurance. He's like, man, I need some insurance. And it was something that, Paul Fergal, well, he was the president of that company at the time. And I remember I was just real honest with him. And I said, look, I know how to do this. I've got no equipment. I've got no money. But if you sell me the job, I'll get it done. And it was a Winn-Dixie shopping plaza in Hollywood, Florida. And he gave me the job. He told me the steps on how to get a workers' comp exempted, and all this stuff. And I sold my first job, and he said, I'm going to give you a down payment of $6,000. I said, all right. And so I went and bought a plate compactor at Harbor Freight. I rented a street saw, and then I rented a little trailer from Home Depot. And I surrounded that trailer with wood. We went and got asphalt. We did $12,000 worth of patching in that parking lot, in that with that equipment. But right away, I hired these two guys, and they helped me do it. Right away, day 2 of doing that patching, I went and tried to sell them more jobs. And then later that week, I sold another job. And And then a year later, we were still coating IKEAs and doing shopping centers like that. And, you know, it was very difficult, but, you know, we got it off. I remember I sold my first seal coating job. I sold this, it was the JCC in Paving. And, I went to the JCC and I knew that they had gotten some proposals from some other company for seal coating. And I can't remember how I know, but I knew the numbers. It was like $31,000. So I went and saw them and I said, listen, I can seal coat this property. I'll do it for $30,000. And there was another instance. I told the guys that, listen, I don't have the seal coating equipment. I came from this company, told them the company's name. You know, like I know what I'm doing. Just give me the job; it'll get done right. You know, and this is about 4 months in the start. And he gave me the job, and he gave me $10,000 down payment. And I found a 1,500 gallon seal coat tanker truck, back truck, and in Marietta, Georgia. And his name was Nate. He was 82 years old. He had that truck, and it was 1980 Mack truck. So this is a 1980 truck. It's 2012, 2013. And I'd never driven a cab over truck before in my life. I knew how to drive stick shift, but I flew up there, bought the truck for $3,000, drove it back. And it was a 5-hour drive normally, a 7-hour drive normally. It took me 36 hours to drive that truck back. Hoses broke. I'd have to change the hose on the side of the road. So the PTO line busted hydraulic fluid all over the highway. I had no tag on the truck or anything, but I made it back to Fort Lauderdale. And
Awesome.
And I used that truck for 7 years. I think I did. You know, after that.
So it's about 2014 or 15.
I'm sorry.
What year did you start? 2014 or 15 or when?
I started 2012.
2012. So
yeah, I mean, so the end of 2012. End of 2012, I started. I bought the domain name. 2013, I guess, is technically the first real year of existence of business. And so that's how we started, man. And it was just, it was a lot of hustling, a lot of calling. You know, it was just putting things together. You know, I lucked out with the name. I lucked out with the domain name.
Yeah, I can't believe U.S. Pavements didn't buy that name already.
No, the thing is, my first, I didn't even know about them. You know, I hadn't heard about them at that time. And it was a year later, you know, talking to them and meet with them, and then several years later, actually doing work with them and stuff like that. So, hey, don't take it personal. It was purely coincidence. get this name, but no, they didn't have it, and it was available. Got it for $9.99.
U.S. Pavements have been around almost as long as I have, and we started national paving. I started, 42 years I've been in the business, but national paving since 2000, I think 6 or so. We started Rabine Paving America, and U.S. Pavements came along. Actually, they weren't really paving much then nationally, but they just started their name where they had the 1-800 number, which is very, very popular to do that. And so they became a national competitor of ours a few years later. And when I started, it was Rose Paving was the only national provider of parking lot work, and they were really just a sales and marketing company, but did a great job with it, right? And so I looked at it and said, man, you know what? I'm losing customers to these guys in my marketplace, in the Chicagoland marketplace, and they weren't even self-performing, right? And I was like, gosh, if they can do this, we've got the ability to self-perform more than anybody. Had some of the best equipment you could imagine back then, and we still do today. So my goal was to be able to self-perform anywhere in the country someday. And then when I needed a subcontract, we'd subcontract it out. Well, initially it was mostly subcontracted, except in the Midwest. And today it might be 50-50, right? 50% of our work is with other contractors doing, we call them certified partners. And then 50% is our crews in Maryland and Dallas and Minnesota and different parts of the country that travel, right? So we've got we've grown to where it's about 50% self-performing today. So it's a good mix for us. And then we can self-perform big concrete paving jobs, big asphalt paving jobs. We've got some differentiators that the industry hasn't really exposed as well as we have. So so we talk about this stuff, Nick. You're basically using a national brand, right? And that's what you're. Tell me about your brand, national brand. You got these offices in about 8 or 9 different locations. Tell us about where you're at nowadays.
All right. So we have partnership offices, to be 100%. And what was, basically like that 800 network model. We started the US Pave network a few years ago, and it was right before COVID. And COVID actually helped it. Like COVID actually boosted our sales. Honestly, we're in Florida. It's a little different animal. But right before that, we started the US Pave network, and we had a few partners, and so several of the offices that you see are the partnership offices. And what we're doing is we're driving leads in that direction, and then there's an upfront fee, so that both parties are in the game. But then there's a commission based fee on the lead and on the accepted lead. And then we've done that model. So we've got a couple partners around different parts of the country. We haven't pushed it in the last year and a half. Honestly, we haven't pushed the gas pedal on it, and it's something that we need to next year. But that's where that came from, and that's where that came to fruition.
And then what do you try to do? What are your markets and the markets you're in? What are kind of the niches you guys feel that you do well in, that you kind of feel like know best, that you can really accomplish high quality every time for your customers? Usually we all have kind of niches that we're really good at, and some things we might do, but we probably rely on somebody else to be better than us, right?
Well, the biggest thing the biggest fear that our customers generally have in common is what it does to their business, what our work will affect their business, and if their business can stay running.
Yeah.
Going back to my previous experiences, my family's company, there was very little emphasis put into managing the site, managing the work, managing the workflow, managing the patrons that are using the businesses and stuff like that. So we put a lot of focus onto communication, signage, I mean, little simple things that we, a lot of construction companies, a lot of customers take for granted when hiring these construction companies. So it's a little bit more polished, it's a little more polished look when we're taking care. We do a lot of shopping centers, and we do a lot of busy shopping centers, and especially in Florida, we're taking care of these shopping centers, and there's, and you have to manage the flow of traffic, managing all those things and the expectations. So
so we know, and we share a lot of the same mindset, I think, because our customers are probably sharing the same challenges, right? So, but managing the inconvenience that might be in front of a customer, if you don't manage it well, lots of inconvenience happen to that manager, that store manager, the customer, end users, the customers, right? So for you, simple things like signage and really good communication, right, matter. And they don't get that from a lot of people, unfortunately, in our industry.
No, zero. Yeah, look, our industry is about it's up there on the par with roofers. I mean, my competition, 90% of my competition, and I don't want to offend anybody, but 90% of my competition are pickup truck guys. It's John Smith Paving and stuff like that. So, having paving companies at this level, dealing with the CBREs and the Duke Realties and the these upper echelon type of customers, that's more of the area that we focused on. By focusing in that area, all the smaller stuff seems to come in a lot easier still. So we're focusing more on the harder type of work, those harder shopping centers, all those logistics. And because of that, it's very easy to borrow into the easier jobs. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, All right. So when you think about, so differentiate, I believe, I've said this for probably about, I guess I started this mindset 25 years ago or something like that, where really, if we differentiate in our businesses or we die, figure on either differentiate with value, great, value adds, or you die. And so that my goal for all our leaders is, what have you learned and what have you done this year to differentiate from even last year? And what do you do to differentiate from not just our for our competition, but even the other industries, right? If we can learn from other industries that have some differentiators that we can put in place.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, even like the communication and signage, all those things you can learn from other industries that do that very well, right?
Yeah, look at AT&T, look at FedEx. Look at these companies that these almost like a legacy company. You can see how they operate and dealing with their customers, and then you start building your customers. Your customers start having a sense of expectation because now they're dealing with US Pave, and so it's like we still covered the Miami Super Bowl 3 years ago, and the Super Bowl was coming to town. It was September. And it was like, man, the Super Bowl's going to be here in January or February. It's a beautiful stadium. Man, someone's got to take care of this parking lot, So we started knocking on doors and went to the stadium. It took 2 weeks to find the right person that knew what to do. And sure enough, when I talked to him, I was like, look, we have the ability to take care of the parking lot before the Super Bowl, make the place look amazing. And there's not another contractor that can do it. We'll show up with X amount of crews. I know that the NFL only gives you so much time for the to have the place ready and whatnot. And you have all these other venues and all these other things happening at the stadium. I was like, we're the only company coming here and taking care of it. 2 months later, they gave us the contract, and we went there and we seal coated 37,000 gallons in 3 days. It was a big time thing, but going to that, I remember it was like, I knew if I could get the Super Bowl, I could get a lot of other things. And I knew that if I could go service them, then I can use that as a selling point for many other venues, many other type of properties. And so so what happened after that, and using our name, using our, and I built the name up. It wasn't like the US Pave had a huge clout, but I was like, look, we're going to give you a US Pave parking lot. And so I started having that attitude with it. They gave us that job. And then from there, we were like, well, we took care of the Super Bowl, in other words, it'd be foolish not to use us, And so then you had that level of service, and
absolutely. So you're saying
customers are willing to pay more for that service.
Yeah. So you're saying, a lot of in my early days, and a lot of people in their business, really, they don't want to tackle the tough jobs. They don't want to tackle the complicated jobs. Right.
Yeah.
And so it took me probably 10 years to get comfortable with it. But I started going after the nuclear plants in the Midwest. Right. And you've got to be, your safety has to be impeccable. Your organization has to be impeccable. Quality's got to be great. And you got to be very efficient in and out, because every day you're in there, they look at it as a safety issue when there's contractors on these properties. So we landed nuclear plants. Eventually, it took me a lot of door knocking, but eventually we did. And we were known as the company that could perform every time. And that it comes at an expense that you don't have in other jobs. But if you understand the expense is 20, 30% more, and you're charging, that's part of your overhead, and you're charging the right numbers.
Yes.
They almost don't. They care, of course, but they don't. As long as you meet their safety and their organizational expectations, they're really willing to pay whatever it takes. And so
you're checking.
That's separated. So just like checking it, we did the Super Bowl. We can handle your job. We did the Super Bowl, right? And we use those nuclear plants. Yeah, we work in nuclear plants. Not companies in the world can do what we do. Nuclear plants. We can handle safety and organization for you, Walmart, Home Depot, whoever it is, right? And again, when they look you up and they talk to your customers that are the ones that made the decisions for the Super Bowl, or the ones that made the decision for the nuclear plants, now it's a huge testimonial that you just can't get otherwise. And too many people are kind of afraid to go that extra mile to take on that big challenge, right?
Well, the thing is, I look at it, it's less competition. You know, when you're going after something like that, it's less competition. You know,
Yep.
I mean, and when you express that to the customer, you know, you get a lot of positive feedback on it. I mean, you know, look, I buy Apple for the entire company. You know, every computer, every monitor, every phone, every iPad, it's all Apple. I pay more for it, but I don't have to worry about it. The stuff
Yeah.
always works. You know, and it's building that. You know, you go to Chick-fil-A, you'd rather wait in that long line at Chick-fil-A than go to McDonald's. You know, you're paying the same amount of money, but it's efficient, it's clean, you're taken care of, you're thought about. You know, there's thoughtfulness into the actual transaction of what's happening. You know,
and we can go into the culture of the brand next, because the culture of the brand Chick-fil-A to me is you know, they believe in America and freedom and God, right? God.
yes, yes,
And I like
it
to deal with
attracts those people.
yeah. I like to deal with
those type of people.
So tell me about that. Tell me about your we'll go into more detail. Tell me about core values. What's that about? What do you guys really hold your hand on as far as, hey, here's who we are, you know, culturally who we are. What do you guys look at as your core values that you guys live by and demand?
We figured out. We show up and we get it done. And but that incorporates on everything. That's just, you know, that's not just the customers and our, you know, what the customers can expect from us, but it's also internal. You know, it's having the same type of people. It's having the people that live that type of way in their own lives, because then I have less to worry about them. You know, they're showing up, they're doing what they're supposed to do. You know, and then having the people that share the same value. Now you know, it's more people rowing in the same direction.
So you think it's as simple as show up and get it done? That's it.
It's well, you know, you boil it down to something like that, and that's a lot more Army talk, you know, and football talk, and
well, yeah,
aspect. But yeah, it's
what the leader leads all my paving companies. A big guy. He was a Division I football player. His son's playing in the NFL right now as a 6'9", 350-pound tackle. All right. Anyway, but Brad is the leader of men. He's a big guy, but he's also a leader of men. And his simple thing is, we get shit done. I mean, you know, but bluntly, we get shit done. And I want people that get shit done. Okay. That's how we have core values that we believe in, that we live by. Right. But, you know, Brad is the guy, if you look at him, right, he always gets it done. And his teammates that work for him know they better get it done, or they're not going to be around a long time. Right. They have to live by our core values. Right. For sure. But they you know, his team, they get shit done, because that's just kind of, it's a simple thing. But boy, when the customer knows, when they make that call, it's going to get done, you know, on time. We're going to show up when we say we are, and it's going to get done on time. You know, that means a lot. And I guess,
yeah,
you know,
and it's also part of the communication. It's the little attention to detail that happens with all of those interactions. You know, calling them when you're supposed to. You know, Sean, you might be late on something, but hey, yep, I'm late, but here it is. Being the first one to talk about, you know, problems happen, but being the one to bring up the problem that happened. You know, I don't want my customer telling me that, hey, your guy ran into the back of a sign, you know, in the parking lot. I want my guy saying, hey, we ran into the sign. I got to go get another sign. You go fix this thing real quick. You know, so that those are the instances. If the customer hears from you first before you're hearing from them, you know, they're going to trust you more. And again, it all boils down into getting it done and getting it done correctly. And you know, it's being accountable and showing up for your teammates here.
yeah.
You know,
But what, you know, for us, we've created that, you know, core values, 5 core values we live by, and I think, you know, there's a lot of things that all can you know, really pile up to, you know, just getting it done, right? Showing up and getting it done. But, you know, in that effort, you know, sometimes as you get more and more teammates, they come in, you want to know, hey, what does that mean? What, you know, get it done, right? You show up and get things done. Well, you know what? We got to do it in a very safe way, because our industry is a dangerous industry, right? We've got to do it in an accountable way, to where, you know, we're accountable for what we say, right? You know, for us, you know, we want to make sure that we have respect across the board, right? If you respect each other and you care about each other, your safety is going to be a given, because people care about each other. They understand, you know, that our demands on safety. You know, they're going to care about each other. They're going to look out for each other. So respecting each other is a thing that didn't think it, in my early days mattered that much. I thought, we're a rough group. We just get it done, right?
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
We're not going to. We may not be best of friends, but we're going to work our butts off and get things done. Well, nowadays we actually realize the value of our teammates actually being friends, actually, doing things on the weekends together, hanging out, and we even do,
Yes.
to help that. But and then delivering exceptional experiences to our customers is a big deal. We want to know that we're delivering exceptional experiences, and in the end, they know that that our quality is what it should be. The experience hopefully is a great one that they're raving about, right? And our slogan, we've had 3 different slogans in 42 years. Our first one was it's kind of funny, but I played it off back in the old days. There's a TV commercial. It was like Zenith. The quality goes in before the name goes on, and so I used that, and I said the quality goes in before our name rolls on. Right now, that was our first one. And then we went to when I realized that the value of differentiation, right? How that the few things I did to differentiate, and 10, 12, 13 years in, brought me a lot of great customers, as you're seeing, right? As you're doing some things to differentiate you from the market, you're bringing in high quality customers, right? The Super Bowl story, right? Allows you to bring in higher quality customers that expect more, that then hopefully bring you to a different the best you can be. But so discover the difference became my slogan, because I wanted my teammates and I wanted my customers to understand that if you use us, you're going to discover the differentiators that make you want to use us more. And our goal is to be our goal is for our customers to rave about us. And if you can differentiate with some really cool things, it works. So discover the difference. And more recently, about 3-4 years ago, we had these meetings on about core values, and are we living by them? And does our slogan, is it really doing what we want it to do? Are we living by the slogan, or can it be different? And so with that differentiation, we started bringing technology in every business we own, and in a big way. And sometimes, spend a bunch of money, and that technology really didn't work out. Other times, spent a bunch of money, it worked out really well. So let's just say we did 10 things in a few years, and 2 or 3 things worked out really well. We could look back and say it was a great investment. Even failing and failing fast in the things that we did wrong and that really didn't add much value was way worth it, because the 2 or 3 things we did do created incredible value and incredible customer loyalty, right? So innovating to serve is what we do. All our businesses now go by innovating to serve, because we believe if we innovate better than anybody else in the world, we'll serve our customers in a way like nobody else in the world, right? So innovating to serve is something that every one of our companies, paving companies or otherwise, go by. So that's kind of our, when I was first 10 years in, I was kind of figuring it out, right? I had my leading and stuff, but as you progress, you start saying, okay, well, we've got 100 people to hire. How do we make sure we get the right people and not have 30% retention of the 100 people? Instead, hopefully 80, 90%. And I think nowadays we get that because our HR department, our leaders, our business, all really talk about our values and say, hey, you seem like you have the values we're looking for. If you don't, that's okay. There's probably a better place for you to work, right? And sometimes when we have to let people go, it's that conversation of, hey, you're a good person, probably a great fit somewhere else. In our organization, the core values we hired you by, we're not quite seeing, right? Whether it be accountability or respect or simple things, right? But I feel like that the end result of Brad, our leader of our paving businesses, is get his own thing is get shit done, right? We just get shit done, right? But he lives by these core values, and the result of the core values is that, right?
Stuff done.
Because for some reason my team didn't think get shit done was going to be a good one to put on our part.
That doesn't look good on the.
But you never know. It might have been, right? You can challenge that.
You'll get some customers.
That's right. So tell me about. Okay, so with your business, you guys have partners in most of the stuff you do. There are some niche things you guys self-perform that you like to self-perform. Talk about that.
in South Florida, we're self-performing a lot. We sub out some of the paving, to larger paving companies that have that ability. We're all the seal coating, all the repairs, all the striping we do in house, and it's been a good model. We need to get more into where we can self-perform the small overlays and whatnot. The milling we'll probably never get into. We'll always, I mean, I can't say never, but for the foreseeable future, we'll sub that out. But that's how that's our business model right now.
So
2024, I want to get into.
Yeah. So knowing your niche is incredibly important, right? In my career, like many, I've gotten into a lot of things, and I figure out in a hopefully a short period of time that, boy, that's just not my niche. If I have people that I trust that can get things done for me in a high quality way that they do every day, and I might only do a day a month, I'd rather right. It's
I mean, the thing is, it's there's a million guys that do great work that doesn't know how to go get the work. And so we've, getting the work, we've gotten, not that we're great at it, but it's not something that we lack in, So finding those good partners, has been really essential because, we find still to this day, even though we do, 99% of our patching in house, if I had some showroom patching to do, I know a guy in Miami that's better patching than me, I'm going to probably use him. And, the same thing with layout striping. We're doing brand new layout. I've got two guys that do it, but I've got this other company in Fort Lauderdale that they're amazing at layout. I mean, this stuff is spot on. If I'm restriping, I got that down, And so, and because of that, we probably have, 12, 15 guys down here that we sub work out to every week, just for little nuances like that. If we got to fix just one ball or something like that, and I can send Jamal and his two guys whatever real quick to go do it. It becomes a spot filler. But I know that that stuff it's on point. It's really it's really good work. And you're right, but it's finding those partners that can do that stuff better.
So let's say Denver, Cleveland, where you got on your website some other areas outside of Florida, Austin, Virginia, right? When you in those marketplace, you just got solid partners basically that work.
Yes, we've got solid partners in Virginia. I'll go up there. We had an actual physical location there. We built an asphalt plant. We don't have it anymore, but we have a good partner there that we had partnered up while we were there doing that, and so he kind of took over that. So we, throughout the state of Florida, we're self-performed for 90% of it. The other places outside of Florida, we're doing the network thing. Austin is kicking butt. We get leads over there, and our partner over there takes care of it. We were over there last May, for about a week, just putting some things together. But it's that works real well. But Florida is where we're roaming around physically.
It's a great market. So I live here full time now because it's a free state, and I like the idea of living in a place where we can feel like we live in a free market where that I think business goes better here, and not to say that it's perfect, but I think in Florida it's easier to get things done, and in Florida, when COVID garbage happens again, we know that we're in a state that strives to stay open and doesn't shut down at a whim and ruin small businesses across the state, like my state of Illinois and many, right? So
it would have been nice to see you running things up there.
Yeah, well, it would have been different if I did. Since I'm not, that's okay. God's got a purpose for all of us, and it's not being the governor of Illinois. So, but okay. So tell me what are some goals? Like, we all, as entrepreneurs, we all have goals. We kind of know where we start, where we're at, where we're going. Tell me about whether it be revenues, employees, parking lots. How do you go by? What metrics do you use? I use top line revenues. I also use like EBITDA or annual profit, or the number that I use that you may or may not use, not many people do, to really drive my expectations of my businesses and my leaders is enterprise value. So I call it EV, right? But enterprise value really is what allows you to know that you're gaining equity. You're gaining equity and on your investment in enterprise value that if you ever had to sell, right, you get hit by a bus or a train and your wife has to sell your business, right? You want to know it's got value in a sale. Or hey, if you just you get up, you're a young guy, but you get up in age, and at 50 years old, I think I've had enough. 60 years old, I think I've had enough. Whatever that age is, and you want to sell, you want to know that you have value, and you're not just going to go to an auction and, like many do, sell their equipment at auction and just liquidate, right? Because there's not a heck of a lot of value.
Yeah.
You work your life away, and then you got to sell in an auction. That's not the best of value. So enterprise value to me is building a business that can be run by your number 2 or 3 person, or somebody can come in and put someone, if somebody buys it, they can fall in place in your leadership position. And it goes on in a great way because you built a great name, great processes and stuff like that. So enterprise value in our industry, is like it's a multiplier of profit, right? So when I think of it in our industry, if you're doing $5 or $10 million a year in revenues and making 500,000 to $1.5 million, right? Your multiplier is probably about a 4 times multiplier of that EBITDA, right? Which is profit plus interest and depreciation, all that stuff, right? It's probably worth, again, 4 or 5 times. If you get to 100 million in revenues and you're at 10%, 10 million, now your multiplier goes up, right? Probably to 7 to 10 even. Okay. And so I look at every business we have, and I understand, we try to understand the industries we're in and the market we're serving to understand enterprise value, EV. And we incentivize our teammates, our leaders, to build the business's enterprise value. And when we do that, it's not just about profits. It's not just about revenues. It's really about what the value you're delivering to your customers and the type of customers you're growing with, right? If you're growing with general contractors who in tough times are out of business, right, or just not doing anything, the strength of the business and the value shrinks by many multiples of that profit. If you're doing business for maintenance, people that are always maintaining their pavements or anything they're doing, they're maintaining, and you're part of that maintenance schedule, right? That's kind of recurring. The value there is much better. So when I say these things, what sparks you as far as the way you look at your value today and where you want to go 5 years from now and 10 years from now, Nick?
Well, it's a difficult question for me at that stage. I don't, it's like I listen to a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff you're saying. I'm like, man, I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. That's just me being honest. That's just me being truthful. When I was where you're at, okay, in this stage in my 10
career,
years old,
10, 12 years in or whatever, right? Then at that point, I just went by revenues, right? Okay, we're doing more revenues.
Yeah.
We're doing more revenues.
Yeah.
But the problem,
that was going to be my answer until you started telling me about enterprise revenue, enterprise value.
Nick, that's the most common answer. It is, but the problem with that is sometimes we grow and we don't make more profit, and sometimes we grow and our customers that we grow with don't actually equate to quality customers that deliver great enterprise value, right? When you're looking at your business value, even if you never want to sell your business ever, okay, we should all be looking at enterprise value, because if it has more value, then it's got more value to yourself, your family, your leaders, your team. You can pay more bonuses, more money to your team, because you're building a value that other people don't have, right? So again, when you think of your revenues like I did at that stage, where you at today and where you want to go in 5 or 10 years, in your opinion?
Sales will always grow as long as we're maintaining. Sales will always grow. Last year to this year, there's only a $2 million difference, but our profit margins were much higher. We were a lot more dialed in. We were a lot more dialed in this year. I believe we funneled. When you're starting a business, and not that we're starting anymore, but when you're running a business, I look at these expenses and they're here. Okay, I got to accomplish this one thing, but the expenses are here. the last couple of years we've been doing this, you know, and I don't know if it's because we get, you know, we're getting older, you know, we care more about, you know, watching the pennies and stuff like that. But you know, it's this old timer was only a long time ago. The more the pennies you watch, the more the dollars you're going to make. So you know, this last year we cut down on wasteful spending. You know, there's been less equipment breaking. We've invested more in new equipment. So there's been a lot less maintenance and stuff. So you know, that aspect of it has grown.
So revenues grew by let's say 10 or 15% or whatever it is, not 100%, but like a decent percentage,
yeah.
Right? But the net grew more than that, and that
yes.
So that's an example of you grew enterprise value whether you know it or not. So your enterprise value grew because you grew your profits, right? I mean, anybody looking at a business is, you know, revenues matter, but not a hell of a lot, right? Unless you're in technology or something like that, right? But revenues in our industry matter, but that percentage of net and the consistency of that net matters. And more than anything else, what matters is the type of customer you have that allows you to consistently make that profit, right? So again, when I mentor people, it's about, hey, what's the enterprise value? And what that does is it pushes you, Nick, to look at your industry and say, okay, I'm doing X dollars in revenues. My industry at that size looks like it trades at about 5 times multiple of profit, let's say. And then you can say, okay, here's about what we're worth, right? And when you grow your profit by 10 or 20%, let's say you grew your profit by 20% and your business only grew by 10%. Well, guess what? Your enterprise value grew by 20%, not 10. Okay. So that should be the goal, because too often, like when I was smaller, I grew revenues in a big way some years. And actually, if I really understood enterprise value, I lost value.
You lost the value.
Lost value, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so again, what today and nowadays we look at, we want to grow our business in revenues, but not as important as growing it in value. So if we can add better customers and do the same revenues, we added enterprise value. If we can grow our profit and our top line, we added. So again, and then you got to look at risk and reward too, right? And sometimes, in some cases, I almost lost my business. I ended up losing money and almost losing everything I built because I was so focused on profits. Not profits, on revenues. I grew a bunch of revenues, and then I had some bad customers that sucked up all my net profit. And so I actually lost a ton of value as I grew. Now, how stupid is that, right? So,
it did. Yes. And a lot of it, you know, it's that youthful exuberance also, you know, when you're first starting out and you're like, oh, let's add more sales. You know, it's very inefficient, you know, and not getting anything done. I've experienced this many times.
So either way, when we talk about this stuff, like I always like to mentor people on enterprise value, because what you'll do is you'll dig into what's my enterprise value. Okay, what is it now? And if I grow 10 million in revenues and I grow 2 million in profit, where can it be? And then if I grow these customers compared to these customers, right, where would it be? Because many of my friends in business will grow their business revenues big, doing work for government or general contractors. And as you may have found out already, in tough times, in which we really haven't had that many since you've been in business, right? I mean,
I've been
we haven't gone through a recession. So that's when your business is tested in a recession, to say if you have great quality customers or not, right? But I'll tell you right now, what we have today in the Rabine Group is 98% of our customers are maintenance customers, recurring customers. So the value is the best it's ever been, and hopefully the market stays strong and we don't have too big a recession. Unfortunately, I feel like one's coming, right? So we got to be careful. So, okay,
yes.
So let's
where I'd like to go.
What's that?
If I can touch on where I'd like to go next. It's like this year. So we have I'm in Broward County, all right, Fort Lauderdale. Underneath this, you have Dade County, Miami. One of the major players about 2 years ago just closed up their shop. So we don't do a whole lot in Dade County. So my goal next year is to really move down in there so that we can get a lot more of that market. And I feel like that market is just not even being really touched by any competitive paving company right now. it is at a smaller scale, but not at our level.
Yeah.
So
Dade County is what city is in Dade County?
Miami-Dade.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's a good.
One of the major players a couple of years ago. But the problem is nobody wants to go down into there because the traffic's so bad. It almost takes a whole different type of, logistical setup to make sure that that you can go and do work efficiently. So that this year, that's what I want to focus on.
Sure.
I want to focus on building that business, building that area, building that market. But then also doing it in a way that it fits that market. So it's specifically unique just for that market. So we're in and out, and we can move, fairly easy. And then it becomes a lot more efficient. So now it's just looking for property, and so that's you can't see my whiteboards, but that's what we're planning out right now. That's what I'm planning out right now. And and then
tell me about your family before we're done here. I want to. You got any kids yet?
Oh, I got 2 boys. I got an 8-year-old and a 16-year-old. My 6-year-old is bigger than I am. He's 6'4", 295 pounds.
What?
He's a left guard right now, but when he gets to the next level, he might be a guard still. But he's probably going to grow another inch or 2.
Holy,
yeah. He's getting good. He's strong. Like quick hands. He's strong.
So he's a sophomore and he's 6'4", 295 pounds.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. He's got me by dukes, and he reminds me every day, I'm taller than you, Dave. And
you can teach a lot of things. You can teach a lot of things, but you can't teach size.
You can't teach size. No, man, you cannot teach or coach size. You cannot do that. And when I say he's big, like he's for real big. Like if you take an outline of a tackle, that's his pinky toe is just as big as everything else. He's not one of those guys that's big for nothing. He's a for real big guy.
He's a good. And you're teaching him how to be a leader on top of it, right?
Listen, he might make it to law school, but he'll have calluses on his hands when he's there.
I like it.
And yes, my son knows what it's like to go pick up barricades at 5 o'clock in the morning before going to school.
When I ran for governor, I took a lot of hands, and so many people couldn't believe the calluses on my hand. Right there, oh my gosh, you're a working guy. That happens. My hands are not like many of these people. But again, I like what you said. What you said, he goes, you may go to law school, but he's going to go with calluses.
He might make it to law school, but he'll be there with calluses on his hand. It's like I remember last year.
That's a great. You got to put that up on the wall. That's the way to raise a good man, right? He may go to law school. He may go to med school, but he's going to go with calluses on his hands, right?
Yeah,
that's
100%. My 8-year-old knows what it's like to pick out asphalt. Move car stops and stuff. I got big kids. I got big boys. My 8-year-old is bigger than 12-year-old. He might be bigger than my older son.
How tall are you?
How
tall are you?
I'm 6'3". Yeah.
So you're a nice guy too. I'm just 6'1", but I was 6'1" and a half. I shrunk the last 5-10 years.
I'm probably 6'2". I'm probably 6'2" now. But
okay.
But
so when we look at this, like you said, you're following some models. Are you? How's your old aunt, your aunt and her stepfather?
We don't.
How do they feel about your business?
We don't talk anymore. It's very unfortunate. Yeah,
that's too bad.
Very unfortunate. I went inside there one, and this is it's just being a young kid. I know who Ray Applebaum. I went inside there a few years ago. I was like, he's been trying to sell that company for years, and I was like, Ray, I'm ready to buy this place. I was what 34 years old or something like that, and he's like, you're ready to buy this place? You don't have 2 nickels of rubbing. That was my first interaction, and but I did. I tried. I tried many times. I was like, look, sell it to me. I'll insert the marketing. And
is Ray Applebaum still the owner?
I don't know. He's still involved.
How does it feel to compete with him? Is that fun?
it feels good.
Yeah,
It does.
it
Not
does.
so much my aunt. I'm not gonna lie. My aunt and I, we grew up together. She's only 6 years older than me. We grew up together, but it's in dealing with those, those business dealings and stuff like that, and how they treated things afterwards. Yeah, it feels good when I got the Super Bowl. It felt good.
Competition is good. If you take it that way, it's good. I mean, we all
Oh,
get stronger.
listen, competition elevates your play. I don't care what anybody says. The first day I played in college, I was 1,000 times better than I ever played in high school. And that's like that with anything, business, business, communication, dealing with people, business meetings. It's just that level that when you surround yourself with that upper echelon of whatever it is, you instantly up your game, and yeah, it's like, starting off the bat. When I first started the company, I wanted to compete with those guys, and I did. I didn't belong at the table at all. US Pave sounded huge. They didn't know it was just me and Frank shoveling asphalt, but that was just, that's how we had to start, and not that we're not so much removed from that. I was welding. I was welding our trailers too, on Saturday. I'm the shop welder. When things get welded.
So I welcome you to compete with us. All right. I believe we do things really well. We're a very strong company and a strong group of companies, and we have a lot of fun, right? We have a lot of fun doing what we do. We've got great leaders that are not afraid of competition anywhere, anyhow. And I think that will continually make us stronger. And I think all of us,
definitely.
I like what you said, competition elevates our games, right? No doubt about it.
Yeah, it always does.
But I think the more important you said was my kid's going to go to law school. My kid may go to law school, or I would say even med school, but he's going with calluses on his hands because I believe
he's going with fucking calluses. He's going to happen.
You may not have met my son Austin, but my son Austin worked in businesses since he was very little, and he actually started his own company as it in high school and ran it through college. But he's a really, really good kid that knows the industry. And he knew that he'd never be in my business unless he was super passionate and he actually had the ability to lead. And he's done all that, right? So it's been fun because I've been blessed to have a son and a daughter, my daughter Janelle also, that lead in businesses with me today. And they do it leading by example, right? They're not pre-donnas. They weren't raised with all kinds of money around them and all kinds of free things. They didn't get any free things. They worked for it. And they'll still work for it today. And if we don't raise our kids that way, we're putting ourselves in a place where we're not going to be real happy because everything's about everything in our life. Raising great human beings is what we need to do in our lives, and when we do that, we can be really happy when they're adults. Compared to you can do all the things right. You can be a billionaire, but if you raise lousy human beings, it's not worth it, right?
No, it's true. That's what keeps you alive after you're gone. I mean, I look at my, I'm lucky. My two boys, like I think they like me. My son, he talks my ear off every night. For an hour and a half, I know about everything. Who's dating who's seeing what. What coach is what. What coach said this. What the chief is on that. Every single day I get that phone call, and I thank God. I mean, I thank the good Lord all the time. I'm like, there's not many people that get to have this, Whether because my son's at practice, he'll call me or at home, in the car. My son's like, hey, it's going on. All right,
Awesome.
And I get that. I still get it with them. I'm very blessed. Very, very blessed.
That's awesome. Yeah, you want to be their friend, but you got to be the father first, right? And
yes.
Patients will do that.
100%. I tell them all the time, I'm not your buddy. Like I call you buddy, but I'm not your friend. I'm your dad. We'll go have fun together, but I am your dad.
Father first. That's right. So hey, Christopher, let's Christopher, round things out because we've been about an hour here, and I want to make sure we're respecting your time. Christopher, what do you got for takeaways here from awesome guest, Nick?
So much. Nick, whenever something great or terrible happens in my life, my dad's only the first person I call. I
Really?
telling him, fun stuff. Hey, we did this, business doing this. It's,
Yeah.
I probably talked you through off. So I really related to that.
No, but it's good. And your dad, I'm sure he cherishes that, because I do, and I look back at my time when the things happened, I didn't cherish it, and I look at my boys, I'm like, all right, I've got to cherish this now and hold on to it, and he makes fun of me because I'll take pictures. I take too many pictures. I'll take, like he's sitting next to me. I'll take a picture of him and I don't post it on nothing. I just keep it in my phone, so I have it. But, I'm very, very lucky with it. And the thing is, I see today's kids that I help coach sometimes, and I see how weak-minded a lot of today's children are, and I grew up different. I got emancipated when I was young, and, it was a different upbringing. But, I look at some of the kids today and they're just, and how weak they are. And I look at my boys, and not that I'm hard on them, but I make them do things. My 8-year-old, he goes to work, Saturday, nothing to do. Like, come on, we're going to the office. You got to wash some trucks. We wash trucks every weekend. All the trucks get washed. So they, they'll help or they'll vacuum, or they'll pick up car stuff. But
Awesome.
I look at them too. And I'm like, these kids are going to be freaking kings one day with all these because it's just the weak mindedness of today's, some of the kids now. And so I make sure. I mean, it's, look, I've got 3 children. I've got Nikki, I've got Tristan, I've got US Pave. Those are my 3 kids. And, it's like, and that it takes up, that's my life story.
You raise them all with a little bit of grit, even the business, right? You got to raise with the ability to understand what grit, the blessings of grit, right? I love it.
You can never know what a good meal tastes like unless you've eaten a little bit of garbage, and it's like that. It's like that,
So Chris, what else you got, brother?
Oh, that's beautiful, Nick. Thank you for sharing that. Nick, before I get into this, I had one burning question for you. I'm really curious. What marketing methods work best for finding paving clients? You mentioned, this is one of my takeaways. You said there are a million people who are great at doing the work, but not good at finding the work. How did you become so good at finding the work? What's the best way for finding work?
So there's many ways. If I was broke right now, I had not a dollar to my name, and I needed to go start a paving company, I'd go on LinkedIn. I type in commercial property man, and then I put in Fort Lauderdale to Miami just to start off with. And I know I'm very detailed with it because this is I've done this. And then I find those exact property. And I had 54 different terms that I would search for: director of property management, president of property management, vice president of property management, asset manager. I mean, all these different terms. And I would sit there and I would search it, and then I would find the exact people for the exact companies that I knew that I'd be willing to work for. I didn't want no starting out. And thankfully, I worked in my family's commercial paving business. I had an idea of the customer and where they came from. So then I just reached out specifically to them, and I'd Google the name, find their stuff on Facebook, find a little bit about them, and then just when I go talk to them, I had a little bit of common ground. And some people think, oh, that's a little bit, it's a little sneaky. It's not. The stuff is on LinkedIn. If they're the ones updating, then that information is pretty updated. LinkedIn's not updating itself. It takes you to actually update it. So that information is pretty, it's pretty on point. And so then finding those people that are specifically reaching out to those specific people, look, there's a parking lot every 5 feet. And until every car can fly, there's in recession and booming times, those parking lots need something. If there's a pothole and whatnot. And great about Florida is that we're working year round. So look, I have done patching on Christmas Day, like I have seal coated on New Year's Day, and so going after those clients in that aspect, then doing a Google search for all your property management companies, then finding those people. And you can find email address. You can find their cell phone. It takes 100 phone calls. You're going to land 18 jobs. That's just it. That's just how it works. It becomes a numbers game at that point. And then one customer, and you want the customer that has many parking lots. Yeah, that's the customer you want. You want the customer who's got 18 parking lots. You don't want the customer who's got one park. That's why that's why we didn't really concentrate on people's driveways. The guy's got that one customer, got one lot from them, so those are the customers that I started off getting. And then after a couple of years, then you don't have to find those customers anymore. People were just calling you, and that's, when you onboard a new sales guy, my opinion, it takes 2 years for them to build up their book of business. After 2 years, they don't need leads anymore. They can't take any new leads because their customers are calling them. And in my opinion, that's the perfect world. It's like you've invested 2 years in the guy. Now he's, those 2 years, he's got his customer book. He's got his, his phone, that phone rings, and he's servicing those customers. And then you don't want to inundate them where they don't have time for work, for them. They don't have time for their own, their own lives, So, right now, and obviously inflation adjusted this and stuff, but 2.2 million, 2.5 million for a guy I'm happy. Like I don't want him selling more than that because you have to manage more, and so I want him to have a life, and so that's how we looked at it. And that's how we go after customers. Google AdWords, we don't pay a dime for Google AdWords. I guess we're acquiring the customer. We have phone calls that come in every single day, but those are the people that don't know paving companies. You want the customers that's done this work before. He's got many lots. He's had these projects. So now I'm the better guy that he's dealt with because he's had to deal with a lot of paving contractors. A lot of paving contractors are crappy, which helps us because that's, your level of competition. You look a lot better, but that's been the main way, in the past of getting customers that you want.
Yeah. Oh, that's a brilliant answer. I do similar things with my own business. So for my takeaways, take a job, even if you fail, as long as you'll learn something. You attract. Differentiate or die. If you can handle paving the Super Bowl, you can handle anything. Pay more for stuff that works, like Apple computers and iPads and iPhones. Just get shit done. Amen. Customers should hear from you before you hear from customers. Like if something goes wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Know your niche is incredibly important. We just talked about this. There are a million people who are great at doing the work, but not good at finding the work. The more you focus on painting, the more pennies you watch, the more dollars you'll make. And competition elevates everyone. Nick, where can our audience find out more about you and US Pave?
USPave.com. You won't find Nick Small on USPave.com. I haven't delved into that, founder kind of, thing yet. In building the website, I wanted to make sure, kind of like how Mr. Rabine brought up the, building the value of that enterprise value. I didn't want US Pave to be not synonymous, but I didn't want it to be based on who Nick Small is. I didn't want it to be, Nick Small, I didn't want any of that. I wanted US Pave to be its own entity, its own reason for being, for being knowledgeable for whatever it is, and that was the premise of that. But yeah, USPave.com and LinkedIn is my two stuff for me, personal.
Well, again, and that's a great idea. Building value, enterprise value, again, Nick, is not to build it all on your back, right? Because there's not a lot of value in selling a business if it's all on Nick, right? And
if it doesn't come with Nick, yeah, exactly.
So for me, my name's attached to this business because it started that way. I started it that way, and we'll continue to use our name. But if anybody looks in our business, they'll see that it can run seamlessly without Gary Rabine, right? I help where I can, and I know that I'm the value, but my business nowadays isn't reliant on my.
No, you graduated way beyond that, and that's why that's why I think I'm just now starting to think maybe we should put like a little blurb in there about where the where US Pave came from. Because now, now we're 10 years old,
Yeah, your
Not
story,
two,
your name and your story should be part of it. Because everybody likes to attach to a story, right? So your story is a great story. So tell it proudly. That doesn't mean that your name, Nick, has to be attached to the value, right? It is.
Yes,
the story can be there forever. So Jimmy John is a friend of mine, and my podcast, I have Jimmy John as the second podcast, and Jimmy John's story is incredible. But Jimmy John now has sold everything. He's out of the business, out of Jimmy John sandwiches, a few billion a year in revenues, I think, and it's really a great brand. And Jimmy John's story is still part of it, but they didn't need Jimmy John to continue the brand.
No,
That's
I remember when I first started this thing, I wanted it to be, and I needed to paint the picture that US Pave was a lot bigger, because I needed to be in that arena. I was the salesman in that arena, but I wasn't part. Now I wasn't part of a company in that arena. So it was like when I started US Pave, I wanted to look like I belonged to that arena, so I could get my foot in the door. And that was.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing in 2000. And again, I should know the year we started, 2006. I had built a strong paving business, Rabine Paving, in the Midwest. But then I started Rabine Paving America. So same thing, right? I started knocking on doors to the biggest customers in the country, flying to Bentonville and flying to Minnesota and flying all over the country, not physically knocking on the doors of the people in charge of real estate. And they kind of laughed at me for the first few meetings, right? and then eventually, gave this opportunity, and within a couple of years, we became very successful in doing work for them. And today, we do work every state in the country. But again, it didn't happen easily. The door knocking that you and I've done is something,
It's fun. Yeah, the thing is, people laugh at you. Your friends laugh at you and stuff. And, you got this idea, like, it's like, I'm going to go do this. Oh, Nick's going to be a billionaire. Nick's going to start a hot dog cart company. Like, listen, I've heard all of it. And I remember, and I related with you and your story. I think your first podcast, you talked about where the ditch digger came from, and you got made fun of it. People were making plans after high school, and Gary's gonna be a ditch digger.
That's right.
That stuck with me, because I've been sitting inside that seat many times before. Like I related to that so poignantly.
Well, our blue collar businesses really can provide amazing opportunity, not just for us, for many others, right? And it's fun to be a blue collar business where we have hardworking people around us that expect to not have it easy, right? We're blessed to be in this industries we're in. Now, you're doing a great job professionalizing the industry and your business, and we have to continue to do that so that these people that are part of this industry, they grow, right? Because it's hard to find people that want to be in the industries we're in. But if we create the excitement and the professionalism, right, the culture that anybody would want to be in, now I think we can continue to elevate this industry. So I appreciate you. I appreciate it. One thing I got that I really liked out of you was what you said, just off the cuff. My kid may go to law school, but he's going with calluses on his hand, because that describes the mentality of people in our industry. That work hard, that understand calluses are a good thing. Working hard is a great to build character. And your son playing football, I guarantee he has a little more work ethic when it comes to those drills and the practices than a kid that maybe never had the opportunity to work hard as your son, right? So we're blessed to be in Israel. We're blessed to be in America. Now let's make sure that we continue to elevate this industry, compete hard and compete well, and we're gonna have a lot of fun.
So, you need me, call me. I'm there if you need me.
I'll be calling you. I'm over here in Naples, and I'll be calling you. Let's get together sometime. I'm in your territory once in a while. I was there last week in Fort Lauderdale. I've got an organization called Job Creators Network that I want you to look at too. Any of my friends, I always introduce them to JC on Job Creators Network. It's an organization that basically protects free enterprise and fights bad regulation that crazy leaders like the one we have in office in the White House today shoved down our throats. Okay. So JCN, I'm a leader there. I was one of the founders of Bernie Marcus. And I was at an event last week in Palm Beach over there. We raised some money and awareness and all that. We've had some of the best minds in business and conservatives in our country at these meetings. It was really cool. But I got to tell you, my goal is to get 20,000 small businesses in the next 2 years, and 100,000 in 10 years, and $1,000 a piece. So before, when we started this organization, it was a lot of bigger business guys and girls that, we're gonna, they're throwing $1 million a year at 50,000 a year at 10 grand a year. And so I said, you know what, this is great. We built this thing in the last 12 years to do damage on the Biden administration before the Obama administration, stopping stupid regulations that they were trying to pass. And one, as you may know, you may or may not know, Nick, but I was the first plaintiff, and we're the group that sued Biden against the vaccine mandate, and we won in the Supreme Court. 80 million working Americans, people that work for you and I, did not have to take a vaccine after we won that lawsuit. And Abbott in Texas right now is trying to push it in Texas that nobody in the private sector can ever force a vaccine on any of their employees. And again, it all stems from our Supreme Court win a year and a half ago. But again,
That's
I'm
important.
saying it's important as can be. Freedom and free markets don't come easy. We're the only country in the world that has what we have. And if we don't continue to fight for it as small businesses, we're not going to have this free market, country in the future where we can strive and succeed to create the American dream that you and I are doing, right? And so again, we need to fight for that for the next generation. So Job Creators Network is the best organization in the country because we can't be bought by anybody. There's no lobbyists. NFIB, U.S. Chamber of Commerce have become woke, and this organization will never be woke.
Yes.
So what did I do, Nick? I said I became the finance chair of the board about a year ago, and so I said, okay, guys, I'm going to do this, but only if we have an entry level $1,000 a year membership for small businesses where we can help them get better, stronger, help them network within our organization, and be more successful as we're all fighting for the same cause to protect free enterprise. So that's my goal, and I've got a few thousand members already signed up that they didn't have before, and we're going to go after 20,000 in 2 years, 100,000 in 10 years.
10 years.
And now we've got a network of strong people that love America, love this this God-built country we have, and this country that really honors freedom and free enterprise, right? So I'll talk to you about it. It's a no-brainer just because we're gonna have cool events, annual events that anybody can go to, and that my goal is to get these businesses to do business with each other. So, all right.
Okay, good.
All right, buddy. Well, great talking to you. Thanks for nice.
Always, Rabine. Thank you, man.
Your time. I really appreciate it, Nick.
I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Yeah, thank you both. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Till next time. Thanks for listening to us with Nick, DDCEO. See ya.